So, we've all seen those lists, right? The principles for trustworthy AI. They're great, they're important. But they can leave you with one really big question. How do we actually build something with these rules? Well, today we are going to translate all that theory into action using a really powerful and practical guide. Let's jump in. This is it. This is the core challenge that so many of us face, whether you're in an organization or you're a student. You get the what, you know the rules you're supposed to follow. But that path from a high-level rule to a functioning, responsible AI system, it can feel super unclear. I mean, how do you take a concept like fairness and turn it into a line of code or a team process? And that's exactly where Annex B of the ISO 42001 standard comes into play. Think of it as the bridge. It's designed specifically to close that gap, to be the practical guide that takes us from those big abstract requirements to what we actually do on the ground. You know, whether you're in a business class trying to figure out how to manage a tech project, or you're a computer science student actually building the next autonomous agent, this is a universal problem. You absolutely need a blueprint, and that is what we're going to unpack right now. Here's a great way to think about this whole standard. It really has two key parts. Annex A, that's like your destination. It tells you what you need to have in place. The controls, the requirements. But Annex B, which is our focus today, that's the roadmap. It's the step-by-step how-to guide that shows you how to get to that destination safely and effectively. All right, so where do we start on this roadmap? The very first step is foundational. It's all about creating an AI policy that actually works in the real world. Let's dive into the guidance from section B.2. And here's the most important thing to remember. An AI policy can't just be some document that lives in a folder somewhere. It can't be in a silo. The guidance in Annex B is super clear about this. It has to integrate to plug into everything else your organization does. We're talking cybersecurity policies, data privacy rules, even your cloud infrastructure strategy. It has to be one cohesive part of the bigger picture. Now, to make this really concrete, let's use an example. Imagine we're building something called an Agentic GenBI platform. What is that? Well, it's basically an advanced system that uses autonomous AI agents to dig through business data and generate some serious strategic intelligence. It's powerful, it's cutting edge, and yeah, it's full of risk if you don't manage it right. So, a key part of our GenBI platform would be what's called a semantic layer. What on earth is that? Put simply, it's a translator. It takes all your raw data and gives it business context. That way, the AI doesn't just see a bunch of numbers. It actually understands that revenue, cost, and margin are all related financial concepts. This is where your most sensitive business logic is going to live. And this is exactly why that integrated policy we talked about is so critical. Look at this pipeline. Your most sensitive data, that revenue and margin info from the semantic layer, is flowing through this entire system. Your AI policy has to be plugged into your data governance and cloud security at every single point, from collection all the way to presentation, to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. Okay, so we've got an integrated policy, but let's be real, a policy is just words on paper without people to actually own it and enforce it. So let's move on to the next critical step from the standard, section B.3, which is all about human accountability. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Annex B guides you to define roles and responsibilities so clearly that there's absolutely no confusion. Every single person on the team knows exactly what they are accountable for. There's no ambiguity, no pointing fingers later on. It's all about clear, defined ownership from the start. So for our Agentic GenBI project, this means getting really specific. Who owns the autonomous agent that's monitoring for data anomalies? Who's responsible for the user interface that people see? Who is the designated risk manager, the compliance officer? When you define these granular roles, you stop just hoping for security and performance. You start actively managing them. And this principle right here holds the whole thing together. For accountability to actually work, people have to feel safe speaking up. The guidance in B3 really pushes for a strong reporting mechanism, a clear, protected process where any team member can raise a red flag about the AI system's behavior without any fear of getting in trouble. Okay, so we have our policy and we have our people with clear roles. Now, what are they working with? This brings us to B4, which is all about mapping out the essential resources, the pillars that power any AI system. Annex B breaks this down into 4 critical pillars that you have to document. First, your data. Where did it come from? How is it labeled? Are there any known biases? Second, your tooling. What software and frameworks are you using? For our project, that means listing things like dbt for that semantic layer and Python for the agents. Third, compute. Where is this all running? Is it a cross-cloud setup using Azure and Google Colab? And finally, your human resources. Do you have the right mix of experts on the team? Data scientists, domain experts, privacy specialists to manage this thing responsibly. So when you lock these three components together, your policies, your people, and your pillars, you're not just getting ready to build an AI system, you are literally building the entire foundation for responsible AI innovation. And I really want to land on this point because it's so important. Following this guidance, it's not about just ticking boxes on some compliance form to make the auditors happy. It's about building something much, much more significant. What you're actually doing is building a culture of responsibility right from the very beginning. You're aligning your tech, you're organizing your people, and you're integrating your policies so that you have this single, unified front that's truly capable of managing advanced AI safely and effectively. So the foundation is solid. It's built. But a foundation is only the beginning of the story. What happens when we stop planning and actually go live? How do we assess the real-world impact of our AI? And how do we safely deploy it into production? Well, that's what we'll tackle next time.